Hello again, I'm Robert Fithen, and you know, we here in the YouTube vinyl community are such great friends. It's almost like a big family. We're so respectful and decent to each other, at least, you know, the channels that I'm subscribed to. I don't know about anybody else, but I've often wondered what it would be like just to hang out with some of the people from my favorite vinyl community channels. If I was at their place, like when there were record collection right there, like what would I want to put on and listen to? So, you know, in order to do that, of course, it would take a lot of gasoline and plane tickets, but I can still kind of wonder about it. For instance, if I was in the world famous As It Should Be studios, along with Paul and Crystal and Tommy, I would definitely want to hear the Beach Boys' Friends album. And then I would have some questions. I would have all kinds of questions. My final question would be, wait a minute, why are we in here listening to the Beach Boys? Aren't we in New York City? Let's go out and do something. But I would also want to make a video with them and defend Dr. Hook. You know how sometimes when you go to somebody's place, you have to ask where the bathroom is? If I was hanging out with Mike at Hub Tunes and his place, I would want to hear one of his Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab records, because he's got like 150 of them. And then while we were listening, I would ask where the mid-range was. I kid. I would want to hear one of his David Bowie albums. He's got like 180 David Bowie albums, and there's only like 20 that are on the internet. So a lot of exclusive to vinyl and to physical releases. So yeah, he's a huge David Bowie fan. I want to hear some of those obscure like David Bowie concerts. So now I'm in England hanging out with a 6-inch pianist. His name's John, a pianist. And well, first of all, I'd ask him, you know, privately, like, what that name means. And then I'd probably just want to hear, he's always playing these great funk and soul, like singles and whatever. I definitely want to hear some of that. No Motown, though. None of the early Motown, because those early Motown UK labels just really make me sad. If I was in Harry's music room, I would want to hear some of the reel-to-reels he has. Now, I would want to hear the you know, the ones from the record companies. He makes his own, by the way. He comes up with his own artwork and stuff like that. I don't think I've ever actually heard like a store-bought album on open reel on a decent like reel-to-reel player, but I hear that they sound great. So I would want to hear that for myself, and I've never heard that before. So I don't know if he has a quad player. I've actually never heard an actual quadraphonic sound system either. So yeah, if I was in Harry's music room, reel-to-reels. If I was at Brian from Embryonic Robot's place and we were just hanging out and he's like, hey, what do you want to hear? And I would definitely pick out something loud and just have him crank it up. And then when he starts talking, just keep going, what? 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 Now I'm hanging out with John from Bip Bop Boom, and wow, he's another one with an incredible collection of all kinds of different music. But I think the one I would pick to listen to would be some of those great, like early, like glam and punk and new wave singles, the 45s he's got, because especially the punk stuff, I've really only heard that stuff on like CD compilations. So I want to hear like the real thing right off the 45 instead of like, you know, the CD compilation from Rhino. Like the poser I am. People still use the word poser. I'm bringing it back. I'm a poser. If I was hanging out with Psychedelic at his place, wow. I mean, he's got such an incredible psych collection. I wouldn't even know where to start. I would probably just start pulling out an album and go, oh, let's listen to this. Oh, wait, no, not this one. Let's listen to this one. Yeah. Oh, wait, no. I want to hear this one. Wait though. First, let's listen to this one. That would go on for hours. I would have all kinds of records pulled out, and we still wouldn't be listening to anything, and he would probably at that point just ask me to leave. Wow, Cosmic Brian, he came to my place, now I would be at his place, and really close, it would be in St. Louis, but I don't know what we would listen to, because he's another one with all these great psychedelic albums, all this great bubblegum rock. I think, you know, I don't know, we'd be listening to a lot of stuff, but I definitely want to hear the one that he showed a few months back, where the guy's up on the mountain, and he's cut off the god's penis, and he's holding it up, and the penis is bleeding down the hill. We got to get that one in there. So if I was with Andrew from Parlogram, man, the guy's like the Beatles go-to channel. I mean, he knows all about the Beatles pressings and which ones to get and everything, and that's what I would want. I would want to hear every Beatles album, the best pressing of each one. So I think that takes around 11 and a half hours to do that when you include the two past masters, volume 1 and 2. And so, yeah, we order some takeout, set aside some time. Hopefully he doesn't have any plans, anything else going on, because I'm going to be there a while listening to every Beatles, of course, in order, every Beatles album. And just to make it completely authentic, we'd have to put the singles in, like as they go along. Couldn't just listen to those albums as, at the end or something like that. So a lot of work, have it planned out. And like I said, get some takeout, set aside some time. Every best pressing of every Beatles album. If I went to Kansas City, I would assume one of the only things to do would be to hang out with Craig from Craig's Vinyl Plethora. And probably he's got a whole Dolly Parton collection. He's one of the few people in the vinyl community that actually talks about like the 80s country. I guess classic country is more like 60s, but 80s country and whatever. I would want to hear some of those Vinyl Me Please Dolly Parton releases, especially the ones that are only on vinyl through them, because I'm not a member of that, and they're very colorful. And I want to know if they sound as good as they look. Like, do you sound as good as you look? Like the Bellamy Brothers, almost. Patrick the Vinyl Archivist, if I was at his place with his whole audio setup, I would want to hear Aja from Steely Dan, or Asia, or AJ, whatever you want to call it. That's the album I'd want to hear. So that way, in the future, whenever I talk about it, I could say, look, I listened to this on one of the premier sound systems, and it was still awful. So if I was out on the West Coast and just kind of hanging out with Dusty Spence, I'm not really sure what we would be listening to, but I would definitely ask him to turn some damn lights on. So if I was in this incredible music room that Mr. Hall of Fame has, I would definitely want to hear, I think I'd want to hear Kiss Crazy Nights, because I've never heard that album before, and apparently it's his favorite Kiss album. And I don't know how often I'd have the opportunity to hear that album with somebody who says that's their favorite Kiss album. That would definitely be probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience to hear Crazy Nights with somebody who says that Crazy Nights is their favorite Kiss album. So yeah, I would definitely do that, and then I will have heard the album. So we're just like a big family in the vinyl community. I'm back in England hanging out with James Griffiths. I probably want to hear some Squeeze. I mean, he literally wrote the book on Squeeze, but I would keep referring to them as UK Squeeze, because I'm a bit of a jerk, and I'm an American jerk. Harris Pilton, if I was hanging out at his place, we got to hear some 12-inch singles. He's like the king of the 12-inch singles. And so, I'd just kick back with a drink or something like that. I don't know if he's got a recliner or something. Put my feet up, put my feet right on his couch if he has one of those. Get really comfortable and relax and just watch him keep getting up and changing the 12-inch singles like every 6 minutes. Just put on another one, get up, put on another. And I'd just be like hanging out, relaxing, like, hey man, don't work too hard. So I'm hanging out with Jonathan, the cheap and cheerful record collector. I would want to hear something expensive and angry, just as a contrast. He just did a video where he talked about trying to return a record. He had all kinds of problems. He was not being very cheerful in that video. In fact, he used some language that I can't even repeat. I think if I was just hanging out with Chris from Record Talk, I'd probably want to hear that Zamrock box set that he has. That thing is multiple hundreds of dollars. I'm probably not going to be buying that anytime soon. It's a great box set of African rock. Some of it sounds a little more American than others. I've heard some of it. It sounds great. You can stream a lot of it, but the box set comes with a huge book, and you can't stream a book. Well, actually, you can stream a book, but I'd rather turn the page. So if I was at Chris with Record Talk's place, I would want to hear the Zamrock box set. If I was hanging out with Richard from Calvin Wazoo, I would want to hear some jazz music. He has these jazz shows that he does every Monday. Jazz Monday, he makes videos about jazz. I'd want to hear some jazz, and then I would just sit there and look at him like, really? So yeah, if I was hanging out with Richard at Calvin Wazoo, I'd want to hear some of these remarkable, because I've heard some of them, and I'd want to listen to them in the room with a jazz fan and just give him that look. So of course that leads to the question, what would you want to listen to if you were hanging out at my place? You can let me know in the comments. Not that it's ever probably going to happen, or I'm ever going to hang out with any of these people. Like I said, some of them are on a different continent, so, but it's nice to think about what, with people showing their records, like what would you want to listen to or whatever. I know what you probably would be listening to, and that's a cat meowing non-stop for some reason. So yeah, go ahead and put those in the comments, and you go ahead and subscribe to the channels I talked about. They're great channels, and of course, there's so many more great channels I'm subscribed to and enjoy watching too that I would be at their place wanting to hear something as well. I just didn't want to make the video a half hour long because nobody wants to watch those. I'm Robert Fithen. Thank you so much for watching.